Look at this old man, still standing around in his uniform like he's some kind of hero. These words shattered the silence of the courtroom hallway when an 18-year-old boy, sitting in his luxury car, laughed at a 68-year-old veteran in the parking lot outside the courthouse where people waited for their turn. This wealthy teenager was mocking him with his friends. That veteran had served his country in the Gulf War and now lived on a small pension. "Son, speak respectfully," the veteran said in a quiet but firm voice. The boy's laughter grew louder. "Respect? Why should I respect useless people like you? What have you accomplished in life? Still walking around in that ancient uniform. Look at my car, look at my phone, look at my style. This is real success." The veteran didn't respond. He lowered his eyes, but a line of pain crossed his face. He stood where he was, completely silent. This was all happening outside the courtroom, but many people were watching. Someone even recorded a video. And when both were called inside before Judge Frank Caprio, the entire atmosphere changed. Judge Caprio sat in his chair. He was 78 years old, but his eyes held that sharpness that recognizes truth. He was considered Providence's kindest judge, but his decisions against wrongdoing were absolutely firm. His courtroom was famous as Caught in Providence, where people brought their minor cases. First the veteran was called. His name was Thomas Miller. Double quotes, "Mr. Miller, why are you here today?" The judge asked. "Sir, my car's registration expired. I've paid the late fee, but the ticket fine remains. I live on my pension, sir. If I could have some time, I'll pay it off." The judge looked at his file. "Mr. Miller, you're a veteran?" "Yes, sir. Served in the Gulf War, 22 years in the Army." The judge's eyes softened. "Thank you for your service, Mr. Miller. I'm dismissing your fine. You may go." Thomas Miller's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you, sir. Thank you so much." As he was leaving, the judge asked the security guard, "Who's next?" "Sir, next case involves a young man, Dylan Whitmore. Traffic violation, and there's also a complaint against him." Dylan Whitmore was that same 18-year-old boy. When he entered, there was no shame on his face. Completely carefree, as if he'd come to shop at a mall. "Dylan Whitmore?" the judge asked. "Yeah, that's me," the boy said casually. "Young man, in court we say yes, sir," the judge said in a stern tone. "Okay, yes, sir," Dylan answered dismissively. Opening the file, the judge said, "You have 2 violations. 1, you ran a red light. 2, rash driving. And 3rd, it says here you insulted a veteran in the parking lot. Several people witnessed it." A flash of nervousness crossed Dylan's face, but then he regained his arrogance. "Sir, that was just a joke. I wasn't serious." "A joke?" The judge's voice echoed through the courtroom. "You think calling a veteran useless is a joke?" "Sir, I mean, I just said it casually." The judge leaned forward from his chair and said, "Dylan, how old are you?" 18, sir." "And what's your car worth?" Maybe $85,000, sir." "Maybe?" "You don't even remember what your car costs?" the judge said sarcastically. "Did you buy this car, or did your parents give it to you?" Dylan remained silent. "Answer me, young man." "My dad gave it, sir." The judge put his pen on the table and looked directly into Dylan's eyes. "Do you know who Thomas Miller is, that veteran you mocked?" "No, sir." "He's a man who risked his life for your freedom and mine. When you weren't even born, he was in the desert among enemy bullets, fighting for his country. Today, he lives on a small pension because he gave his youth to the nation. And you, living off your father's money, had the audacity to call him useless?" Complete silence fell over the courtroom. Dylan's head dropped. The judge continued, "I'm giving you an option. Dylan, either you pay a $2,000 fine right now and do 100 hours of community service." Or what, sir?" Dylan asked nervously. "Or you go to the Veterans Hospital every morning at 6 a.m. for the next 30 days. There you'll help them, clean their rooms, talk with them, take care of their needs. And every week you'll give me a report on what you learned. During this time, your luxury car stays with your dad. You'll use public transportation." Dylan's face went pale. "Sir, but I have college. You'll go after college. This is your choice. Fine and community service, or this 30-day program." Dylan's mind started calculating. $2,000 was nothing to him, but 100 hours of community service and his reputation. "Sir, I choose the second option," he said in a subdued voice. The judge wrote something on a paper. "All right, tomorrow morning 6 a.m. at Veterans Hospital. Your supervisor will be Colonel Peterson. If you miss even one day or arrive late, straight to jail?" "Yes, sir," Dylan answered properly this time. "And one more thing, Dylan," the judge stopped him as he was leaving. "Money isn't everything in life? Respect, honesty, and regard for others, these things aren't found in any mall. They come from hard work, sacrifice, and knowing right from wrong. I hope you'll remember these 30 days. Yes, sir." When Dylan walked out, his entire demeanor had changed. His friends waiting outside immediately asked, "Bro, what happened?" Dylan said nothing. He just looked at his car and called his father. The next 30 days transformed Dylan's life. On the first day when he arrived at Veterans Hospital, Colonel Peterson sent him straight to the burns ward. There were soldiers who had lost everything. In war, some had no hands, some had no legs, some had faces so scarred you couldn't recognize them. But despite everything, they smiled when Dylan entered. "New volunteer?" asked a soldier named Marcus, who had lost both legs in Afghanistan. Dylan could barely speak. Yes, sir." "Don't call me sir, kid." "I work for a living," Marcus joked, using an old military phrase. Day by day, Dylan's perspective changed. He met Robert, who saved 5 of his unit members but lost his eyesight in the explosion. He met Sarah, a female veteran who drove supply trucks through enemy territory and now suffered from PTSD. He met James, who was only 42 but looked 70, his body destroyed by chemical exposure. Each morning, Dylan cleaned rooms, helped with meals, pushed wheelchairs, and most importantly, listened to their stories. Stories of courage, sacrifice, brotherhood, and loss. Stories that no history book could capture. On the 10th day, Dylan met Thomas Miller again, the same veteran he had mocked. "You're the boy from the court," Thomas said, recognizing him. Dylan's eyes filled with tears. "Mr. Miller, I'm so sorry. I was stupid. I was ignorant." "I didn't know. I didn't understand." Thomas smiled gently. "Son, you're learning now. That's what matters." "But why did you never say anything back when I insulted you?" Thomas looked out the window. "Because I've seen real enemies, son. You weren't my enemy. You were just a confused kid who needed to learn. Getting angry at you would have taught you nothing. But this," he gestured around the hospital, "this will teach you everything." Dylan spent hours with Thomas, learning about the Gulf War, about what soldiers go through, about the weight of the uniform. Thomas showed him photos of his unit minus 15 young men, full of life. Only 8 came back alive. "We didn't fight for medals or glory," Thomas explained. "We fought so kids like you could live freely, chase your dreams, even make mistakes. That's what freedom means." By the 20th day, Dylan had changed completely. He started arriving at 5:30 a.m. instead of 6. He brought books for veterans, helped organize activities, even used his own money to buy supplies the hospital needed. His friends stopped calling him because they didn't recognize this new Dylan. On the 25th day, Colonel Peterson called him into his office. "Dylan, Judge Caprio wants a report." "What should I tell him?" Dylan thought carefully. Tell him I was blind, but now I can see. Tell him I thought success was money and cars, but real success is living with honor. Tell him these veterans gave me more in 25 days than my entire life gave me in 18 years. Colonel Peterson smiled. "I'll tell him exactly that." On the 30th day, Dylan returned to Judge Caprio's courtroom, the same courtroom where his journey began. "Dylan Whitmore," the judge called him forward. "Yes, sir." Dylan stood straight, almost like he'd learned from the military. "I've read your reports. Colonel Peterson speaks highly of you. Thomas Miller spoke to me personally about you. So tell me, what did you learn?" Dylan took a deep breath. "Sir, I learned that I knew nothing about life. I thought having expensive things made me successful. But those veterans with nothing but their dignity and memories are richer than I'll ever be. I learned that real strength isn't in mocking others, it's in serving others. I learned that freedom isn't free, it's paid for with blood, sacrifice, and courage. And most importantly, sir, I learned that every person deserves respect, especially those who gave everything so we could have anything. The courtroom was silent. Even the stenographer had tears in her eyes. Judge Caprio nodded slowly. Dylan, your case is closed. But I want to ask you something. What will you do now? Sir, I've enrolled in community college. I'm going to study social work. And I'm going to keep volunteering at Veterans Hospital. Not because I have to, but because I want to. Those men and women taught me what it means to be a real man. I owe them everything. Judge Caprio stood up, something he rarely did. He walked down from his bench and extended his hand to Dylan. Young man, you came here as a boy, you leave as a man. I'm proud of you. Dylan shook his hand, tears streaming down his face. As Dylan left the courtroom, he saw his luxury car parked outside. His father was standing next to it, ready to hand over the keys. But Dylan walked past it to the bus stop. Son, your car? His father called out. Dylan turned back and smiled. Dad, I don't need it anymore. Sell it and donate the money to Veterans Hospital. I'll take the bus. It gives me time to think about what really matters. That day, Judge Frank Caprio's sentence didn't just punish a disrespectful teenager. It transformed a lost boy into a man who understood the true meaning of honor, sacrifice, and respect. The video of the original incident and Dylan's transformation went viral, inspiring thousands of young people to reconsider their values. And Thomas Miller. He got something more valuable than any apology. He got to witness how one act of patience and one wise judge's decision could change a life forever.